I've compiled a list of the Nintendo Switch 2's best games in one place. Here, we'll discuss the titles that not only meet expectations, but also showcase the console's best technical and design prowess. Each title will be explored with unvarnished information, clearly explaining why it feels close to perfection. In short, if you're looking for truly top-tier games on the Switch 2, this series is for you. The most impressive aspect of Silksong is its nearly seamless movement system. Hornet's agility is woven into every moment of the game, creating a seamless rhythm between attacking, dodging, and vertical progression. Farloom's more mission-oriented structure constantly guides the player towards smaller objectives, reducing the feeling of needless wandering during exploration. The visual design retains the melancholy of the first game, but features more vibrant, finely crafted details. The music, similarly, blends seamlessly with the atmosphere, ensuring a smoother yet unobtrusive feel. The difficulty level occasionally intensifies, but this feels like a deliberate choice that enhances the game's sense of progression. Overall, Silksong is a sequel to the Metroidvania genre, crafted with technical mastery, well-paced gameplay, and demonstrating production quality throughout. Persona 3. Reload is a balanced example of bringing a classic game to modern standards on Switch 2. The visual upgrade is immediately noticeable. Character animations are smoother, and the use of lighting and color is more pronounced, but nothing dampens the game's serious tone. The combat system remains one of the series' strongest points. Finding a weak spot and stringing together a one-more chain is both strategic and satisfying. While Touryst's structure still feels repetitive, the small improvements made for a more structured progression. The social linking aspect also forms the emotional core of the game. Relationships influence not only the story, but also the balance of power. The Switch 2 version runs at 30 frames per second, and some reviews have noted minor fluctuations, but nothing that disrupts the overall gameplay rhythm. Overall, Reload is a thoughtful, complete, and powerful remake for both new players and series veterans. Street Fighter VI is one of the games that truly captures the fighting spirit on Switch 2. Maintaining a constant 60 frames per second in the core combat modes is a significant advantage, particularly in terms of the clarity of input readouts and the consistency of character reactions. This stability makes the drive system's pacing more reliable. Transitions between pressuring, retreating, and punishing are seamless. While there are some visual simplifications, the animations remain readable. User reviews frequently point out that World Tour mode is weak in terms of frame rate and resolution, but it's also a known fact that it lacks competitive focus. Overall, the Switch 2 version is an adaptation that delivers a strong core fighting experience, balances the technical aspects, and supports the competitive aspect of the game. Final Fantasy Tactics is a reminder of why tactical games can still be compelling. The battlefield's legibility has been significantly improved in this version, with elevation differences, range lines, and area of effect boundaries much clearer. This speeds up decision-making and clearly highlights the value of positional play. The job system offers a more streamlined progression, making it easier to see which route will yield long-term advantages when switching between classes. The political narrative, along with the voice acting, has a more consistent tone. On the Switch 2, performance maintains a smooth flow that maintains a rhythm even during long battles. The visual overhaul isn't a major overhaul, but it does offer a quietly refined presentation that doesn't contradict the essence of the tactics. The result is a cohesive and well-balanced tactical experience whose strengths strategy enthusiasts will immediately recognize. Yakuza Kiwami 2 demonstrates why city-focused action narratives can still be effective. Thanks to the Dragon Engine, the weight of close-quarters combat is crystal clear. Animation reactions, attack chains, and defensive windows reflect the game's grittiness with balance. Kamurocho's atmosphere is also strong. Daily activities, side stories, and mini-games constantly shift the game's tone, preventing it from becoming monotonous. Narratively, the political tensions between criminal organizations are reinforced with lengthy cinematics, and scene transitions run smoother on the Switch 2. There are a few points of criticism, particularly those that suggest the storyline can be overwhelming for new players. Nevertheless, when the building blocks come together, Kiwami 2 becomes one of the platform's standouts in terms of both fluidity and narrative integrity. Cyberpunk 2077 Ultimate Edition is a prime example of how technical limitations should be utilized on the Switch 2. Since the game ships with the 2.0 updates and Phantom Liberty content, cross-system integration is quite robust. The skill tree, AI, and vehicle combat are no longer scattered, but flow in a clear, organized manner. The most striking aspect of the port is the higher-than-expected image quality thanks to DLSS support. While dynamic resolution drops during intense scenes, the overall look improves noticeably on the smaller screen. Performance isn't always stable. Frame rate fluctuations occur during driving moments, but the flow of the city is mostly consistent. Night City's atmosphere, despite the simplified lighting, remains powerfully cohesive. Ultimately, the Switch 2 version offers a balanced adaptation that, despite its technical compromises, maintains the breadth of content and the game's identity. Mario Kart World is one of the games that most clearly demonstrates the Switch 2's ambitions. The series' core driving experience remains intact, but the racing structure has been expanded. The pace of the 24-player races is more controlled than expected. New moves like sliding on rails and wall jumping make the track design more fluid. The open world is conceptually strong. Exploring different areas and encouraging off-track activities through missions bring a new rhythm to the game. However, not every area of this section is equally saturated. Some areas remain more simplistic in design. The layout of the race modes, the energy of the music, and the clarity of the vehicle responses are the most established aspects of the game. Thanks to the Switch 2's technical capabilities, even crowded races maintain a smooth flow without any visual disruption. The result is a powerful and balanced next-gen interpretation that expands the Mario Kart tradition without sacrificing its essence. Dragon Quest I and II HD2D Remake isn't just a package that revamps two classic games, it truly understands the strengths of the old design and transforms it into a more readable form. The biggest benefit of the HD2D style is that the locations are now truly selectable. Details lost in the older games are much more clearly felt here thanks to light, shadow, and depth. The battle screen is sped up, menus are simplified, and the rhythm is consistent with automatic options. This means the fluidity a modern gamer is accustomed to is maintained, but the rough edges of the classic structure haven't been completely smoothed over. Additional scenes and new side content that strengthen the story connection between the two games also make the package feel more complete. On the Switch 2, the performance is particularly evident during city transitions and battle ingress and egress. The game is both more responsive and the screen clarity remains clear. The overall effect brings a thoughtful layout built on an old foundation. Hyrule Warriors: Age of Imprisonment is one of the Zelda projects that most clearly showcases the Switch 2's power. Its incarnation of the imprisoning war, a period only briefly touched upon in Tears of the Kingdom, gives the game a distinct weight from the start. The Musu structure is once again built around crowded scenes, but this time, character transitions and the sync strike system streamline the battle. Instead of chaos, there's a pace I'd describe as controlled chaos. The addition of Zonai devices to the combat mechanics also adds a slight tactical layer to the game. The smooth operation of split-screen co-op is a significant plus. The Switch 2's CPU power, in particular, allows for smooth progress in crowded scenes. The engine's limitations aren't entirely overwhelmed, and the frame rate can drop slightly during some intense moments. Despite this, the overall picture is one befitting the Switch 2. consistently combining both the Zelda universe and large-scale battles. Tomb Raider. Definitive Edition isn't exactly a tour de force on the Switch 2, but it offers a solid base for action. While Aspyr's port doesn't quite reach PS4 levels technically, it does settle on a satisfying line in terms of frame rate and fluidity. Running close to 60 frames per second significantly improves the feeling of control, especially during combat and platforming scenes. Visually, lighting, hair details, and some environmental effects have been trimmed, so the game doesn't feel like a remaster pushing the limits of the new console. Nevertheless, the island atmosphere, environmental design, and fast-paced scene building are still strong. Content-wise, it's a complete package, offering a packed adventure with a main story, additional challenges, and a multiplayer mode. The result is an adaptation that technically makes you wish they'd tried a little harder, but with its gameplay feel and rhythm, it earns a place for itself in the Switch 2 library.
Stop! Stop!
Kirby Air Riders perfectly showcases the Switch 2's clear, no dirty work, just straight-up fun approach to racing. The simple controls of the Air Ride era have been transformed into a more streamlined structure here. One-button speed control is retained, while vehicle behavior and maneuvering windows are more clearly defined. The track design is easy to detect both the soft tones of the Kirby universe and the short risk areas that keep the competition lively. The vehicle variety bears the memory of previous games, but the customization options this time around have a tangible impact on the racing style. The up to 16-player online mode doesn't disrupt the pace of the game, but rather enhances it. Sakurai's "everything is ready at launch" approach doesn't feel like unnecessary waiting, a season structure, or a lack of content. The result is a Kirby racing experience that's quick to access but gains depth as you play. A game well suited to the Switch 2. Donkey Kong Bananza maintains the series' familiar country style while featuring wider, more dynamic stages that showcase the Switch 2's power. The rhythm of Tropical Freeze remains, but the camera angles are now more liberated. Some levels feature 3D rotations and short routes into the environment, adding fluidity to the gameplay. The newly added momentum dash and character switching increase the pace of platforming while keeping the search for hidden areas lively. Background animations and an updated lighting engine make a clear difference, especially in the forest and cave scenes. The constant 60 frames per second target also strengthens the sense of control. Bananza Mode's short-term power boost may be too much for some players, but its variety of routes keeps the pace steady. The overall theme points to a Donkey Kong experience, updated with a modern touch, but still solidly grounded. Hades 2 is one of the games that manages to build upon the core loop of the first game without disrupting it. Melanoa's combat style is more technical than Zagreus. The magic system creates short decision windows between attacks and spells, preventing the pace from becoming monotonous. Arcana cards and the familiar system also add subtle strategic nuances to each run. It takes a few tries to figure out what works, and the game responds quickly. The higher frame rate targeted for the Switch 2 is especially noticeable during intense combat. Animation transitions look cleaner. The varying levels of danger in the surface and underground routes advance the game without restricting it to a single area. While some reviews have criticized the story for lacking depth, the consistent character writing and the relationship between the gods remain strong. Kunitsu-Gami Path of the Goddess is one of those games that utilizes the RE engine's visual power not only through flashy effects, but also as a rhythmic force within the setting. The structure is based on a daytime preparation nighttime defense cycle, but the mechanics aren't superficial. Villagers' role changes and mask abilities add small but meaningful touches to the battle plan. So's attack animations are clean and crisp. Even when enemy density increases, it's crucial to maintain the rhythm on the Switch 2. The strategy may seem a bit too simplistic for some players. The setup is established quickly, especially in the early areas, but the sheer number of enemies overwhelms this simple structure later on. The game's art design, with its folkloric atmosphere, is one of its strongest points. Color transitions, light effects, and mask-based effects visually anchor the game. Overall, Kunitsu-Gami offers a more balanced experience than one might expect for a single-page action strategy game. The Touryst Deluxe is a prime example of how a small game can be meticulously expanded on the Switch 2. The original's light exploration structure remains, but the island layout, puzzle flow, and activities now have a more defined rhythm. The new islands and quests add a subtle sense of purpose. Exploration remains free but doesn't feel completely disorganized. The real difference on the Switch 2 is visual. The voxel-style scenes are cleaner with the higher resolution, and shadows and lighting look more natural. Maintaining 60 frames per second has improved control, and the feeling of lag, especially during platforming sections, is gone. The puzzles still rely on trial and error, so the flow can sometimes feel slow, but the relaxed tone doesn't overwhelm. The Deluxe Edition feels like a simple but well-tuned update that leaves you with a just a little better and more complete feeling, even if you've played the previous game. That wraps up the games that truly hit their stride on the Switch 2. If this list was helpful, don't miss the reviews that follow. If you have any thoughts, leave them in the comments, because it's your feedback that really makes this series even more compelling. See you in the next video.